In this video, we're going to talk a bit about significance levels, types of errors you can make, common significance levels you kind of see in economics, and maybe a bit about how, choosing your significance level should really depend on the situation that you're looking at. So first, let's talk a bit about the types of errors that you might make when you're doing hypothesis testing. So don't forget, we're trying to use a sample, a randomly selected sample, to come to a conclusion about the population as a whole. So let's first talk about the types of errors we might make. So type 1 is that you reject the null when it is true. The other kind of error we can make is called a type 2 error. And that's the opposite. We can fail to reject the null when it is false. And so when we kind of perform hypothesis testing, what we're doing is we're going to choose our tolerance for an error of this first type, this type 1 error. So choosing your significance level, let's erase that and start again. Significance level is choosing your tolerance for a type 1 error. So again, we often call this significance level alpha. So in economics, it's really common to see significance levels chosen of, significance levels of 10%, 5%, or 1%. So what this is saying is that if you have a significance level of 10%, is that you're willing to make a type 1 error 10% of the time. You're willing to reject the null hypothesis when it's true 10% of the time. Compare this to 5%, that's saying you're only willing to reject the null when it is true 5% of the time. So you only have a 5% tolerance of this type 1 error. So, we see this kind of common significance levels in economics of 10, 5, and 1%. But really what you should be thinking about when you're performing hypothesis testing and you're trying to pick your significance level is the situation that you're in. For instance, if you're looking at like drug approval or the criminal justice system, maybe you want the probability of committing a type 1 error, whether that's approving a medicine that might hurt people, or whether committing a type 1 error is convicting someone when they're innocent. We maybe want to have a really, really low significance level looking something like that. Whereas in other situations, we're more willing to make this type 1 error. So that's something to think about when you're coming up with kind of your significance levels that you want to test at in different situations.